Hello,
Oh, hello.
I'm Sammy,
And I'm Steve.
and you're listening to Roast Plate Special, the most dramatic, fruity, pebblesingest, uh, swiggingest. Oh, I was gonna go to like Sonic or something and get like a big soda for this one, and I forgot. Swiggingest, Mom Talk Will Never Surviving this ingest recap podcast of The Bachelor and also The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives Ever.
Ever.
And we've got a very special episode today. We're going to be recording season 1 recap of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And I just rewatched it like over the past couple days to like refresh my memory.
Mm-hmm.
But we were, before we started recording, we were getting in a very spirited discussion about Apple and Android because I have an Android phone. I've had an Android phone. I've never once owned an iPhone, never
Yeah.
once in my life. And like I was a BlackBerry girl, like, like
Of course you were.
yeah, that helps you. Like, I loved the movie Blackberry, by the way. If you haven't seen that movie, you should watch it. It is so good. It is one
Okay,
of my
maybe I should watch
favorite
Blackberry.
movies I watched a couple of years ago. Yeah, it's so you haven't watched it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Jay Baruchel and Glenn Howerton, it's like incredible. It's incredible.
Oh.
Everybody should and the music unmatched. They really like captured that time. They start playing the Strokes and you're like, I'm in the early 2000s. Anyway, but yeah, so like I was that and then I've had Samsung phones for 15, 16 years, something like
Mm-hmm.
that. And we were talking about how, on Apple they like deliberately make the quality of Apple or of Samsung like images and videos worse when you're
Mm-hmm.
messaging and there's certain functionality like that you can't do. So we started texting each other stuff instead of because I'm trying to divest from Meta anyway. And you're like, oh, I don't know how to get this link on my computer from a phone. And I'm like, you're not messaging on your browser?
No, yeah.
And
because
you're like,
of course, like
no.
iMessage is like they're like, no, you can only talk to your cool Apple friends. That's like everything. It's like this like I don't know. It's like this conditioning. It's very Pavlovian. It's just like I see the green text and instantly I'm like,
Yeah, that's so messed up, and we literally
yeah.
never think about it. That's the thing, it's like it's
Mm-hmm.
one-sided beef because Android users never think about Apple users until Apple users become annoying. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
literally what it is. Because it's like everything works, it's like I go into my messages, everybody looks the same. I can't tell what phone they're coming from until I see a shitty quality video come through, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Oh, it's Apple," because we're not able to see that it's, like, high quality because they
Yeah.
downsample on, like, both sides.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I use Google Messages so I can just like with WhatsApp, which I'm also trying to kind of move away from, but it's hard because you have clients on there and whatever. But
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I just open it up on my browser, and then if I need to access a link or send a link to someone, I just pair my device and
Mm-hmm.
copy paste. Like it's not hard.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Meanwhile, I was like, I'll just airdrop it to myself. Fuck, I can't do that. Then I was like, oh, now I'll just look at it. No, it's not on iMessage. And then what I ended up doing
yeah.
was you emailed it to me, but then my browser was freaking out for some reason. So the way that I ended up getting it to work was I copied the link and then I texted it to myself. So your green turned into a blue. And then I was able to click it and then it worked just fine.
And then
So
you're
here
like,
we
I'm gonna
are.
go on Safari to solve it too. So it's
Yes.
just
Yeah.
like it was like, yeah,
Great
so
stuff.
funny. But I do own one Apple product, and that's an iPad because I do think they make the best tablet.
Mhm.
There's not a better tablet on the market unless you're gonna go like maybe Surface, and then it's like you might as well buy a laptop. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
when it comes to tablets, I do think iPad is the best. I think their Apple Pencil is really good and all that
Mhm.
stuff. So like I'm on board. And I bought like the lowest tier iPad, like a $300 iPad with like Gen 1, pencil. And I really
Mhm.
do like it. But and I bring it with me to campus a lot to present when I don't need like the full functionality of a computer. If I'm not using like a statistical software or something like that, I'll just bring that and I'm presenting on like Google Slides or Canva or whatever.
Mhm.
What I really hate is if my iPad is low, if the battery is low and I have to present in class, the lightning port only allows me to present and it doesn't charge the iPad, which makes no sense to me. Cause it's like you have a PC and you connect it. It's like you put in a USB-C and it's like, do you want to do everything? Do you want to like it's sometimes overkill, right? It's like, do you want to transfer photos and also share data and also do it as a backup and also charge? And I'm like,
Mhm.
I just was charging my phone. Just so calm down. I don't need all that right now. But it's like, yeah, we were just talking about how annoying the lightning port is and how they have to change everything over to USB-C now because the
Yeah.
European Union got mad. Yeah.
But yeah, but as I was telling Sammy, it's not about her being correct on all these points. It's about me just wanting to be cool and
Yeah.
just doing some adult bullying because that's all we have left. Like I can't be like, you're dumb, you got a silly face, you, or like makes fun of some kid because he doesn't have the right Pokemon cards or something. Like all I have in my life is green
Oh, you've
text.
green text. Oh.
Ew, green texter.
So, on the topic of adult bullying, let's talk
Oh
about mom
yeah.
talk and let's talk about
Let's
the
talk
secret
about
lives of
adult
Mormon
bullying,
wives.
baby. That's all you
Yeah.
have. It's like iPhone, Android, or you have to be like a Mormon mom. That's
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it was interesting. It was fun to rewatch because there were certain things that I like 100% forgot about. And I don't know
Mhm.
exactly how we're going to go about this recap. It's going to probably go all over the place. Oh, a couple updates before we get into the new season because we have the new season of The Bachelor coming up
We
tomorrow.
do.
Tomorrow?
Oh
Isn't it
yeah,
tomorrow?
it is.
Oh my gosh, so exciting. I will be home. I did start a new Blue Sky account
Ooh.
for the podcast, and I'm going to
Ooh.
try to live post my feelings and reactions.
Oh, that's
So
exciting.
and it's just our domain, so it's popculturediner.com. So you can
Yeah.
find us there if you're interested in checking out the Blue Sky. I'm not going to say I'm going to live post every time, but I am
Mhm.
free tomorrow night, so that is my plan is to live post. Um
And
but
I'll comment
anyway,
on all your live posts and be like, "Nah, you're wrong."
you suck. But also, so I just signed up for the new Jilly box. Oh, I'm wearing my one of my Jilly necklaces right now.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Jilly swag. This is how
yeah,
dedicated we are to the show,
yeah,
guys. Like,
yeah, Jilly, please. Jilly, please. But yeah, so I signed up and it's all about like self-care for the spring. And the
mhm,
only thing I know is she had like a ridiculous amount of add-ons and I bought one of them and it was like a honk shoe pajama dress.
mhm.
So I'm very excited to walk around with my I have to get like a sleeping cap. It's like that kind of a like loose, flowy, whatever. And I'm gonna feel like I'm from the turn of the century or what have you. So I'm really excited for that. Also, I just need to show everybody. I mean, I'll have them on the next episode, but I need to show everybody while we're talking about the internet. I've got AOL Instant
Ooh,
Messenger nails
that's
this time,
amazing.
and I need everybody to see it
How did you
because my
how is
nail
that
tech really
an
went
option?
above and beyond. I came in, and I was like, "Can you give me AOL Instant Messenger nails?" And she was like, "Let's do it." I literally couldn't find any inspo because no
Mhm.
one else on the internet
That
has
no one's ever
posted.
I was like, "That's the most Sammy ass
I'm
shit
like,
I've
"Can I
ever
get
heard."
AIM nails?" And these are the colors I used to use, like
Yeah.
obnoxious, like it would be like green background, pink text,
Mhm,
pink background, yellow text. And my away messages were always Jack Handy quotes.
mhm.
For those of you who know Jack Handy from the old SNL days.
Yeah. Congratulations on one finding a nail tech, like, over the age of 30 who knew what you were talking about.
She's
That's important.
actually younger, way younger than me.
What? How is that
Yeah.
possible?
She
Did
well,
she know what it was?
kind of. She just rolled with it. She's
Okay.
very, like, game for whatever. Like, I come in and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Here's an idea,"
She
and
kinda knows what she's getting into.
she's
Yeah.
like, "Okay, let's find some pictures," and she, like I mean, the fact that she saw, like, the image of this and painted
Mhm.
this on my nail with the outline and everything, neither one of us breathed. We're just sitting there, like, holding our breath as she's doing, like, the black outline on this, and then we're like, "Oh, we did it." Um, was amazing.
That's so good.
But yeah, she just kind of like I'll be like, "This is what I'm thinking," and she's like, "I'm with you, I'm with you."
Mhm.
I did talk to her about because at some point, Tuck and I are gonna get like remarried at Kiss Mini Golf. So we've been
Mhm.
talking about what kind of kiss nails we would want to do. So we're
Ooh.
already like starting to, who knows? I'm like, I literally have no idea of the date of this anything. I'm like, but
But we're planning out the
because
nails for sure.
yeah, but we're planning out the nails and I'm like, and maybe we have to practice a couple times. And she's like, this sounds fun. This sounds fun. So she's that kind of person. No, she's like in her early 20s, I believe.
Oh,
So
wow.
she doesn't have a big frame of reference for AIM at all.
That's great though, because, like,
Yeah.
I feel like if you don't have a frame of reference for, like, 90s Nickelodeon and, like, AOL Instant Messenger and all those things, like, you are the embodiment of that culture. Like, if I
Yeah.
didn't know any better, like, I could totally picture you just on a show, like, "Live from Nickelodeon Studios, it's Sammy," and then you're, like, sliming some kid, like, that's your entire
Oh,
aesthetic.
that's like so complimentary. It's like I was just talking about because like so Sherry Lewis's daughter posted a video with Lamb Chop singing from Les Miserables, like a song from Les Miserables,
Oh,
which was amazing. Like, you know, like in protest and all that. And she liked my comment, and I was so excited. And I was like, yeah, two of the biggest compliments I could get are like, you're kind of like Lamb Chop in real life, and and like, yeah, like you're the physical embodiment of '90s Nickelodeon.
you are,
Like, that's
seriously.
wonderful. Like, I love that. I was trying to explain Secrets of the Hidden Temple to
Mhm.
Tuck the other day because we were watching Frogger. I don't know if you've watched any episodes of Frogger.
No,
It's
no.
bad. It's really
Okay.
bad. It's like, but it's like an obstacle course, with
Mhm.
light Frogger branding. Okay,
Yeah.
but it's basically like Wipeout,
Mhm.
Frogger themed. And for some reason, instead of doing like 8-bit everything, which would have made it like really cool, they did go all out with the set. I will say I feel like the props are like very well constructed, but very
Mhm.
difficult. So like no one can actually make it through the course. So instead of having people in the final who like make it all the way to the end, it's like they fell the least amount of times, so they get to the final. Like it's
What?
no one is doing well enough. Like they made the course too hard for anyone to like really beat.
Mhm.
Um, but also they have this like boss that's like a smelly toad, and it's like really bad
What?
computer animation,
Yeah.
and it's so bad. It's so bad. Um yeah, wait, hold on. And then I don't know one of the hosts. I'm trying to look him up real quick. Is that his name, Kyle Brandt? I probably should know him, but I don't know
Mhm.
him. Yeah, so this guy Kyle Brandt, okay, he was on Good Morning Football. I don't know.
I don't know what that is.
But then also Damon Wayans Jr. is one of the hosts of Frogger,
Oh,
and it's literally like you just were like, you're gonna pay me to do this, like okay, and I would do it
sure.
for a check too. But
Yeah.
it's like they're trying to make things funny that aren't funny. You know, it's like very cheesy jokes.
Oh
Anyway,
god.
um, I don't know why I got into this. Why was I talking
Legends
about
of the
Frogger?
Hidden Temple.
Legends of the Hidden Temple. So I was
Yeah.
trying to explain to Chuck like what Legends of the Hidden Temple was, and like if I if I had been on a like there's a few game shows and reality shows that I would love to be on. And I
Mhm.
did almost make it onto a reality show. I think I talked about that on the podcast before, but I did
Oh
not
yeah.
make it, and that was good. Cuz wouldn't it didn't make sense for me watching it on TV.
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm
And
not
that
that
show
nerdy."
was Rock of Love starring Bret Michaels.
No, that show was King of the Nerds. It was King of the Nerds.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I had made it pretty far into the rounds of video auditions, and then when they actually saw me, I think they were like, "Oh, she's actually too normal," which is amazing. And they're like,
Yeah.
"Not nerdy enough and she can't
No.
go. She's too social." Like
Yeah. If only you would have walked into the audition and been like, hello,
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was just myself on the video because I'm like, well, if you
Mhm,
don't
that's your
like who I
problem.
am, then that's yeah, then you're not like I didn't play into a character. I was just me. And they were like,
Yeah.
well, she obviously knows nerd things, but she presents herself like too normally. So we
Mhm.
gotta cut her. But anyway, like Supermarket Sweep, Legends of the Hidden Temple, and The Mole are all shows I would have like died to be on. Those are like
Mhm.
my all-time favorite like reality and game shows. But anyway, he had no idea what that was. But yeah, Frogger, I wish they would redesign it. It is not a good show as is. I do not think it will last past season
Mhm.
1, but good for Damon Wayans Jr. getting that check. I mean,
Yeah, that is good.
yeah.
Do you wanna hear my
Yeah.
Nickelodeon conspiracy theory before we talk about
Yes.
the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
This is I'm a Nickelodeon guts truther. That's kinda my
Okay.
designation I've given myself.
Okay.
Uh, Nickelodeon Guts, for those of you who don't know, maybe some of our younger listeners/viewers, was a TV show in the 90s, very similar to Legends of the Hidden Temple, also very similar to American Gladiators, wherein,
Mhm.
three different kids would participate in a series of athletic challenges, and then whoever did the best, they like the final thing they got to do was they climbed this mountain called the Aggro Crag. And then like all your points are added up at the end, and then if you have the best time on the aggro crag, then you win. And when you win, this is the thing that they tell you: you get to keep a piece of the rock, you get to keep a piece of the
Mm.
aggro crag. Okay, now how many episodes of this show are there? I don't know, 50, 100,
Yeah, I don't
200?
know, a lot.
A
Yeah.
lot. It ran for years, years,
Mhm.
years, years. And even after like the regular show stopped, they like redid it as like international guts, and it was a whole thing. Okay, every single one of these episodes, a child allegedly is given a piece of the aggro crag. Therefore, it is reasonable to believe that these pieces exist out in the wild.
Mhm.
However, when I was in college, there was a spin-off Nickelodeon show. It was literally called Nickelodeon Games and Sports. It was just like deep in cable television back when people just had cable. And so me and my roommates would sit around and we would drink cheap beer and we would yell at the TV while watching Guts, as you do.
Yeah.
And eventually what we figured out was we were like, I wonder like what happened to the aggro crag pieces? And we spent literally the entirety of college and beyond that, like looking on eBay for a piece of the aggro crag. Because you tell me nobody's selling a piece of the aggro crag? They're just not out there? No aggro crag pieces found. They're not there. I don't think these kids got to keep the aggro crag pieces. So
It's funny
I
because
believe it is a myth.
there's a lot on eBay, but they don't look like the actual pieces. They look like
Exactly. They're
recreations.
reproductions. They're
Yeah.
fakes. They're
Yeah.
fakes. Okay? Oh, some of you
Or
conspiracy theorists are like the moon landing was fake. No, the aggro crag was faked. There's no pieces of the aggro crag
wow.
out there.
That's so interesting. One more piece of lore before we move on. I never had cable growing up.
Oh my god.
So, even though you think I'm like a 90s Nickelodeon kid, the only time
Mhm.
I got to watch Nickelodeon was at friends' houses.
Wow.
So like I
You're
soaked it
like, I
in as
didn't
much as
watch
I could.
Nickelodeon. I was Nickelodeon. That's
Like I was like I need as soon as I mean when we got one Saturday morning on ABC, that was like
Mhm.
when I actually got to watch Doug in my house, and then everyone was like, "What's the
Yeah.
new Doug? It's not good anymore." And I'm
Yeah,
like,
his hair's bad
"Ugh."
now.
And I'm like, I don't get Disney, I don't get Nickelodeon,
Mhm.
so like I grew up watching this makes more sense. The Marks like Groucho Marx, You Bet Your Life, George Burns and Gracie Allen, I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched. Like
Yeah.
that's the shit that I watched growing up, and I think that makes more sense than Nickelodeon, to be
Yeah,
honest.
and this
So
is where we reveal to our podcast audience that you're actually my grandpa. So,
so in true sheltered human fashion, let's talk about
mhm.
these Mormon wives. Um
Let's do it. Shouldn't
okay, so
every reality show just be in Salt Lake City with Mormon people? I think
well,
they're
I
all the
mean,
best.
the thing that's interesting is so much of our media is informed by Mormon culture and people don't realize it. I mean, you and I realize it, but
Mhm.
it's like I've explained this to people so many times. I'm like, you don't understand. Like all of the mommy bloggers, all of the early Instagram influencers, if they were moms, if they were young women, if
Mhm.
uh not even flip a coin. It's like 9 times out of 10 or greater. They were Mormon. Um, and people are like, how is it that like Mormons are so represented in like mommy blogger worlds and all of that? And it's because it's part of LDS culture. If
Mhm.
you are a Mormon woman, you are supposed to document your life. So a lot of these women in the early 2000s, like when blogging became popular, started documenting their life in blogs and kind of became accidentally famous. So like, Deuce, which like we don't have time to get into all the Deuce lore. And like that wife and god, I mean there's like so many like
Yeah.
Freckled Fox and like there's so many like famous like
Mhm.
in like I use famous loosely, but it's like so Salt Lake City and like Mormon culture is the epicenter of like mommy bloggers and like
Mhm.
early Instagram influencers and then mom talk now.
Yeah.
Also MLMs. Like there are
Mhm.
more multi-level marketing companies in like Utah than like anywhere in the United States. So there's so much of our culture that is influenced by Mormonism in a way that I think most people don't even like see or recognize.
Mhm.
But it's interesting to see, and also that like the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, all that stuff, more like and there's like this weird you're you're getting an A in LDS, like that kind of stuff, like
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
church, but it's like, that they don't like it. They don't like that these television shows exist.
Mhm.
Um, but it's like it's because of this repression that there's stuff that comes out in such interesting ways. I think that's what makes like Salt Lake City, Mormon or formerly Mormon, women so interesting, because
Mhm.
there's also like, a lot of people who a lot of women who use and abuse prescription medication in Utah,
I could see that.
because of
Yeah.
all the things that they're not allowed to do. There's like a very big problem there. I mean, not to say that
Mhm.
there aren't problems other places, but and there's like this pressure to be perfect. And when you're documenting your life on a blog or on Instagram or whatever, and people are looking at your life,
Mhm.
and inside your church, there's this pressure to have this perfect outlook. It's interesting to see these women be messy and real and make mistakes, because
Mhm.
yeah, that's not like a commonly accepted thing, except they'll be like, "Oh, everyone is welcome in the church." It's like, no, I'm familiar with the things that you did and didn't allow not that long ago. So, and
Yeah,
the things you
yeah.
still don't allow now. And yeah.
It really it's like the way I see it is, I enjoy regular reality television. Like I love
Yeah,
Bravo shows, love me some
same.
Housewives, like all of it, all of it, all of it. Obviously, I mean, here we are, we're doing this
Yeah.
podcast, but uh the thing I like about all the Salt Lake City stuff is like it's like if you've ever had a really good bowl of chili and there's some sort of like secret ingredient in there and you can't quite put your finger on it, but it's really like elevating things, you know?
Yeah.
And the secret ingredient is Mormonism. Like, cause
Yeah.
everything is
It's
just
the
like,
garments. It's the
yeah,
garments. Yeah.
it's like everything that I like, but then there's a little twist. So it's just like, oh, I love the Real Housewives, and then you're watching the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and then it's like, oh, here's Mary Cosby. She married a grandpa, and I'm like, excuse me, she married a grandpa? You could just marry grandpa?
Oh my God. Mary Cosby is like, yeah, that's a whole other episode.
But
Like,
like
we can't
they
even
have
get
all
into
this
that.
stuff, so it's like they have normal housewife whatever
Yeah.
issues because each different you know, uh, location of Real Housewives, they have their own like little wrinkles, but fundamentally they are the same thing. They are extremely wealthy women yelling at each other, which is what Salt Lake City is. But then you throw in this religious aspect, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh, and now they're fighting because somebody brought wine to the prayer thing, even though the lady who said, why did you bring wine to the prayer thing, is like whipping back martinis nonstop.
Yeah.
They're just like, what is even going on? It's beautiful. And then when you take that mold and you sort of pull it away from the housewives and their like opulent wealth and the fact that they're older women, and then you put it in the hands of these young women who are kind of messy in a different way, but also like just trying to figure things out. And like you say, they're walking this line of documenting their life and putting themselves out there, but also being like, oops, I had a naughty white claw, like
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah,
that.
it's just weird. But here's the thing, like, they do shit that, like, I wouldn't do. Like, they go farther than I would go. I mean, I'm a
Like
pretty
drinking
straight-laced.
96-ounce soda at 7 a.m. I wouldn't do
Well,
that.
yeah, but, like, I'm a pretty straight-laced person, but I feel
Mhm.
like, I don't know, like, the parameters of, like, the partying I've done have been pretty normal, like, pretty average, like,
Mhm.
or below average. Like, I'm kinda square, whatever. But I also there's nothing that, prevents me, religiously from doing certain things. There's just things I
Yeah.
have no interest in doing. So, like, it was interesting to rewatch this, and there were things that I completely forgot, like, oh, yeah, like, they go get Botox, which, like, you can get without any, like, you don't need to. I mean, sometimes they'll, like, numb you or whatever, but, like, that's about it. But they do laughing gas.
Yeah, because it's the closest I can get to drugs.
Yeah, it's their excuse to do laughing gas, and then they're like, "Oh, yeah, when we did ketamine together." I'm like, "I'm sorry, you did ketamine together?" Like, I'm
Yeah.
like,
Well, it's like, why? Because
"That's."
it's a horse tranquilizer and horses are animals of God? Like,
Yeah,
what's
it's
the
like it's
reason?
like the circuitous thinking, where it's like,
Yeah.
well, like, coffee isn't okay, but,
Mhm.
like, yeah, soda is. So we
Yeah.
drink these giant sodas. It's like well, and it's like, and we won't even get into, like, soaking and all that stuff because I don't wanna talk about it. I'm
No.
not interested,
Or
but
the
if, like,
armpit thing?
yeah.
We're not gonna
But if
talk
you
about it.
okay, but, like, just, like, the BYU shit, like, if
Mhm.
you look that stuff up, you're like, "That is so much weirder
Yeah,
than,
it's
like,
way
anything
worse.
I did in college." Like,
No.
I'm like, "I did
Ev
normal things in college. Nothing like that,
Everything they
nothing like
do
that."
is like, we have a loophole for that, and it's the weirdest
Yes.
thing you've ever heard of, and it's way worse in a lot of ways. Like, what are
Yeah,
you
it's like I
doing?
feel like they covered that a little bit in the Book of Mormon, but, like, they didn't nearly address, like, all of like, it's like when you hear about it, you're like, "I'm sorry, why do you think that's, like, somehow acceptable or better?"
Mhm.
Like, even and, like, listen, I don't care if you go to Chippendales, that doesn't bother me one bit, but it's just interesting because 'cause they're like, they're like, "Well, should we go to Chippendales?" And they're like, "I think in the eyes of God, you're okay." And it's like, I don't know. I don't think so, not based on your doctrines, but, it's just like but everything is mental gymnastics for these
Mhm.
women,
It seems
and
exhausting, right? Like,
yes, exactly. I'm just like, it would be so much easier to not do this. I don't know. And
yeah.
but then also like if you watch like the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, it's like extricating yourself from the Mormon church is hard too because if your whole family is in it, you come from many generations of it, then it's
Mhm.
like you go through this very long breakup process. It seems
Yeah.
very like entangled. And it's weird because it's not like when people leave Scientology and then it's like I mean, somewhat, but where it's like they're excommunicated and there's a smear campaign and they put a lot of money behind it. But it is like, well, it's just because you've got family upon family upon family and
Mhm.
people might treat you differently and people talk and whisper and whatever.
Oh,
And there
yeah, it's like a
probably
messy
is
divorce, basically.
yeah, it's not like to the level of Scientology, like leaving Scientology, but it is kinda like that where it's like, well, do you wanna blow up your life? Or would
Mhm.
you rather just be like, well, I'm not a perfect Mormon, but I'm still practicing and,
Mhm.
whatever, because that's easier than just outright leaving and
Oh, yeah.
then it's definitive and then things get complicated in your personal life. So it's
Mhm.
interesting to see these women who like very clearly in my opinion would be a lot better off if they were not in this church at all like and they could find other things to connect with. I don't know, to
Yeah.
watch them inside this structure is like yeah it's interesting and I mean they can choose to do what they're going to do but it's interesting to see women who are on different it's a lot like the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City where it's like and some of the women and housewives are not even Mormon at all or were never
Mhm.
Mormon but in this show it's like well this is my relationship with the church right now and and they're like we're the good ones and we're the bad ones and I'm like I just don't
It's
know
I
like
know, it's like you're all weird, and, like, and the way they talk about it,
you're
they're like,
all
"So, me and the Mormon church have kind of a situationship going." It's like, "St will you
yeah.
stop? Just
Yeah, I mean,
stop."
it's interesting, but
Yeah.
it's like I understand why they're doing that because it's different from
Mhm.
like, like I was raised Lutheran, like ELCA Lutheran. It was like, I don't know, you went or you didn't go. It didn't like fundamentally change your life.
No,
Like, you
no.
know what I mean? If you were like if you didn't show up one day or you took a few months off
Oh my god, can
or
you imagine if
whatever, like
Catholics were this serious? No, like
well, there that's just like it's supposed to be the guilt that lives here.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and it's like, that's different.
yeah.
But it's like, yeah, so
So
I
what you do,
just I
if you're Catholic, you go Christmas, you go Easter, and then you feel guilty the rest of the year,
the
and that's
whole
it.
year, yeah, like that's
That's
that's and
how it
then you're
works.
covered and then you're
You're good.
covered. But it's like, yeah, like so I can't relate because it wasn't like I didn't feel this huge, like, cultural pressure to, like,
Mhm.
show up or not show up. It was just like, all my friends go here, and we're all in confirmation together, and we all hang out outside of here, so, like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go just to, like, hang out with my friends, like,
Mhm.
and and that was fine, but then when I went to college, I'm like, "Well, I don't live here anymore, so I
Yeah,
just stopped
yeah.
going." You know what I mean? It wasn't like, "Oh my god, my whole life has changed," or anything like
Mhm.
that. It was
Well,
just
and the
so
cultural aspect of it, I mean, I think for, uh, certainly any, like, Christianity or something like Mormonism is it almost functions like a suburban adult social club,
yeah.
because I think especially if you go back a generation or 2 before, like, our generation, so we're, like, talking pre-internet, basically.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people, like, they fled the cities, they moved to the suburbs, but then they're just sort of, like, isolated out there, and then you have, like, oh, you're an isolated family, and you've got 3 kids, and what do you have? You don't have anything. Like, there's so many adults that just don't have friends. It's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people our age, they have parents. It's like, who's your dad's best friend? It's like, I don't know, the dog. Like what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially men. Men don't have friends. Like old dudes. Go
Mhm.
find yourself a 60-year-old man, and there is a very good chance that guy doesn't have friends. Or he's like, well, my buddy Will in college. Like, no, let's talk to someone. Like, let's say someone you've talked to in the last 5 years. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So that's why that's religion kind of fills that hole for a lot of people because it's like, oh, well, I get to
Mhm.
interact with people, and these are my friends because we go to church together, we believe the same things, and blah 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 blah. But in the back of my head, I'm always just like, are you just going here because you're a little lonely? And
Yeah.
and the whole thing with Mormonism too is, you see these people and in the religion and everything, and then the sort of subgroups that form within there, it's the same type of thing. And that is what binds all these women together in The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is they're sort of like, I don't know, they have this weird parasocial relationship where they're just like they have to be a part of this thing, whatever this thing is, and they
Mhm.
just sort of feed off of each other. And even though they just kind of hate each other, and some of them are complete weirdos beyond the standard weirdo measurements.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's interesting because it's like, yeah, like I was raised in a very like progressive
Mhm,
Lutheran church. So I didn't realize how unusual my experience was church-wise until I
mhm.
like experienced other places and then I went, "Oh, this is not the same." Like this is weird.
These churches don't have snacks. What's up with that?
Yeah, I'm like, you don't have you don't have fellowship in the basin or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and you're not just like vibing, like you're like converting people. Like that's weird. Okay, we don't do that. I'm confused. But yeah, like so for me, and then I went to a private college, but it was like a Methodist college. I didn't even think about it. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm Lutheran and I'm going to a Methodist college. Like I didn't even think about the
The
implications of
scandal.
yeah, I didn't think about the implications of that or even that, like, the
Wow.
private college was associated with a church at all, and, like, I never went or and you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and
You're
I'm
the
not, like
Lutheran girl stomping around campus and everybody was whispering, "Watch out, she's gonna nail her grievances to your door."
well, Methodists should also anyway, they're Protestant, so you're welcome. We started it, so sorry, anyway. This just becomes like a very well, I guess it's like you can't avoid it. It's like a very religious episode. Sorry, everyone. So, but no, like I'm not like I don't practice those things
Yeah.
anymore. But also, like, it wasn't like, oh, that's a consideration for like where I go to college or anything like that because it's not like you go to an ELC. Like, I don't even know if there is an ELCA college. I don't think there is. Maybe there is, but I have no idea. And so, but it's interesting because I went to school with people who were Mormon and like they all went to like BYU or
Mhm.
other Mormon colleges. It's like they were in Wisconsin and they moved to Utah when they graduated because it's like that's what you do. You graduate, you go to BYU and you meet someone there and you marry them. Like that's
Mhm.
the plan. So it is just it's like your whole life is kind of like prescribed for you if you're in this church. No matter where you live, there's a good chance that you're going to like move out to Utah and like get married and have a bunch of kids and and like do missions and all that stuff. Um, and there's so much pressure on you with that kind of thing. And it's interesting to watch the inside of that and see people who aren't abiding by everything and they're
Mhm.
feeling that pressure and they're pushing the boundaries where they can and they're just trying to be like fun women having a good time and it's like
But
but
are
yeah
they having
within these
a good time?
yeah, right, exactly. It's like but there's always like this feeling of dread,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because like I watched Mom Talk before before the show ever came out. I knew
Mhm.
about like the soft swinging scandal because I remember like Taylor Frankie Paul is incredibly good at social media. Like
Mhm.
she's brilliant at it. And I went from like hating her to loving her, which is so interesting. I feel like a lot of
Oh,
people
that's like her
experience that.
arc. Like
Yeah.
her arc on the show, because I feel like there's basically there's 3 main characters, right? So
Mhm.
there's Taylor, who goes we go from, "Oh, no, is she okay?" to, "Oh my god, I hate her," to, "Oh my god, I love her more than anything in the world. She's the most
Yeah.
precious person," which is a wild arc to go on in, like, 10
It is.
episodes. It is
Yeah,
a ride. It is a
it's
ride.
fast. Yeah.
So you've got that one, and then
That
you
one.
the other, like, main arc that you have is the Whitney arc, where you're
Yeah.
like, is she okay? To by the end, you're like, is she Satan? Is she actually Satan? Maybe. I don't know. Also,
Yeah.
why does she want to do homesteading? Why does she think she should be on a farm? And that's
Yeah.
scary. And
Yeah.
then you've got so you've got the Whitney is this just like this weird benevolent presence in the show. Like
Yeah.
that's how she's framed. Taylor is this wild ride that you're just like you're against her, you're rooting for, you're worried about her. Like it's just emotionally all over the place. And then the real emotional core of everything, and I think this is like the warm fuzzy thing or the thing you really cling to, is the Jen plot, because you're like,
Mm.
she's so sweet. I love she seems so nice and she's so religious, but not in a mean way. She just seems great. And then you see her husband, you're like, oh, this fucking guy, this fucking guy.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Yes,
and
for
that's the
sure.
thing. It's
Yeah.
like, and so you're like the entire time up until the end of the season, you're just like white knuckling for Jen, hoping that she's okay. Because as silly and ridiculous as the women on this show can be, the men are the worst people on the face of the earth. Okay,
Not all of them, but most of them.
most of them, most of them,
Yeah.
the ones who
Some
get
of
the
them
most
get a
camera time.
pass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
the ones you don't see, and then you see them out of the corner of your eye and you go, "Oh, yeah. Well,
mhm.
he's gotta be fine," because like,
There's
I don't
one
see
guy
him
where
at all.
like they just like he's only in like 30 seconds of one episode, but
Yeah.
like somebody's just like he's just old.
Yeah,
That's
wait,
it's
who
like,
wait, which one is the one in the age gap relationship? Is that Demi?
yeah, it's to me. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, like, you don't really see her husband, you don't really see Jesse's, and you don't really see Macy's. Well, you see
No.
Macy's a little bit more, but you're like, "Okay, so they're the good ones,"
Yeah, and just
because you
because
don't see
they're
them.
just like guys,
Yeah.
and everybody else, it is just like, hey, ladies, you think you hate men now? Watch The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. You're gonna hate them more than you ever have in your life. It's
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Like and even someone like Whitney, who plays the role of the villain the whole time. Like I'm just looking at her husband. I'm like, what is it? What is this guy's deal? First of all, why is he changing his haircut every episode?
Well, they both
That's
change
weird.
their hair all the time.
All the time.
Well, that's what I'm okay, so,
Yeah,
like, all right, let's get into it. Well, okay, well, first I wanna talk about the
I know.
soft
I'm
swing.
all over the place. I'm very
I know,
excited.
but I knew this was what it was gonna be like. No, but let's first talk about the soft swinging, and then we'll talk about Whitney. But
Okay.
so I knew about the soft swinging before the show ever started because Taylor Frankie Paul was so good at the internet, and she was
Mhm.
good at like producing rage bait. I don't think, well, I think she was kind of intentionally doing it, because she would post stuff like she would be like, "Oh, I'm a 54-year-old grandma," and shit like that. Do you remember that?
Yes,
She
yes.
also had like a haunted house storyline and stuff like that. Like she was
Yeah.
just really good at like posting things that would get people to comment, and
Mhm.
she was just incredibly good at it. And so then when like the soft swinging stuff came out, I think people were like, "Wait, is this another?"
Is it a bit? People thought it was a
Yeah,
bit.
it seemed like a bit because it was like she was always doing bits, and she like the only time she would pop up on my For You page is when she was saying something like completely like blatantly false and
Mhm.
ridiculous. So I was like, okay, there's just another thing. And then I'm like, wait, no, everything's falling apart and she's getting divorced and like what is and then I was like, wait, this is real?
Yep.
Oh no. And then, like, to hear her explain it, I'm like, "Oh, this is," and there's more that happens on TikTok, like, more explanations on TikTok than you get on the show, but I was like, "Oh, this got really complicated really fast," and, like, the women who were involved, like, aren't even on the show.
Mhm.
Um, one of them did, do, like, a multi-part series later, but we were all already on Taylor's side, so it's too
Yeah, it's
late
like, it's
to
too late.
it
Yep.
was too late to change public opinion, sorry. But
Yeah.
that's the thing. Here's the thing that's interesting about Taylor because she went from kind of like going all the way out. My Switch is vibrating. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm done. It's like you need to work out. I'm like, no.
Your
But
Nintendo Switch
anyway,
tells you to work out.
yeah, because it's connected to that Ring Fit thing.
Oh, I'd be like,
Um,
"Shut up, Mario Kart machine."
I literally like haven't used it for that in a long time, and I don't remember how to turn the reminder off. So it's just every Sunday at 11:35 it goes off. Anyway, uh, it's like the weather, like the weather
Mhm.
sirens or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it was interesting because like, yeah, the women aren't on the show. She starts
Mhm.
explaining this stuff and you're like, oh, this gets like, yeah, this got messy really fast and it's really sad. And then but none of the women who are on the show, like besides Taylor, were involved in this whole thing. And then, but that's how they used it to market the show, which I think was interesting. And they're like, but you're
Oh,
going to
yeah.
like the women. Don't worry. You're going to like them. So we're just going to go with it. But
Yeah.
there was like this huge gap between like the pilot in the second episode. Like, I don't know how long, but
Mhm.
at least like probably like 7 months or something like that, at
It felt
least, or 8.
substantial.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
a
because
year, I
there's
don't
kinda like
know.
a whiplash moment when you get to episode 2, you're like, "Oh, what where are we now? Why have we
Yeah,
fast forwarded?"
yeah, because it's like the first episode is like, okay, they're soft swinging. There's like Taylor is like on the outs with everybody, and you go into it thinking Taylor's going to be the problem the whole season. Then you find out
Mhm.
no, actually she's so sweet, and she's just like she's been through a lot in her young life. That's hard, you know.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so then Whitney. Here's the thing. So like Whitney is like constantly in an identity crisis.
Mhm.
Like, I think Taylor knows who she is, but is trying to make other people happy, and I hope she starts living for herself, I really do. But I think she is good at identifying what she is about. She just,
Mhm.
rejects it. You know, it's like
Yeah.
she knows what's good for her, she knows what's not good for her, but, like, she actively rejects it because she's trying to live up to a certain standard. So
Yeah.
she's just
Whereas
gotta yeah.
I agree with you too with Whitney, it's like, I don't think I think she's afraid of finding out who her true self really is in the same way
Yeah.
that, like, I am afraid of Whitney personally, so
Yeah.
I would also be afraid of that.
I think yeah, exactly. I think she is just, like, very afraid to, like it's like, I think Taylor is close to living into her true self. Like, she's a
Mhm.
year away from doing it, and she's already doing it in small ways, like on TikTok and whatnot, and
Yeah.
I mean, real life, presumably. But Whitney, it's like constant identity crisis, constant performance, and, you know, and it's like and she's running away. And whoever asked that question, whatever producer asked that question, because it's like they came back from Hawaii. Like, they ran away to Hawaii
Yeah.
and then came back 5
Which
hairstyles later.
I'm trying to figure out, like, I was, like, running the numbers in my head. I'm like,
Yeah.
"So you, like, got rid of your house, and then you moved to Hawaii for, like, 3 months, and then you were like, 'Maybe not,' and then new house, new mortgage. What are we doing? What?" It
Yeah.
doesn't seems I don't understand it at all. But yeah, she's constantly running away, but then reframing it as like, "No, it was just a refresh. It
Yeah,
was
it's
soft running away."
yeah, yeah, soft running away. Yeah, and it's just like but then there's, like, the whole Tinder scandal
Mhm.
thing, which, like, you know, I'm not gonna speculate on anyone's anything, okay?
Mhm.
I'm not gonna do that. But it's weird regardless. Like, to me, like, I mean, I've been through it. Like, that would be enough for me to be like, "Bye, see ya." But, you know, but that's the other thing. In Mormonism, it's, like, hard to remove yourself from a marriage as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but, I mean, I do think they genuinely enjoy each other's company. I do,
Yeah.
but I'm just like but yeah, the whole thing, it's like there is always a performance on their TikTok. They don't just have
Mhm.
like normal videos. It's all like very wacky, you know, dances and skits and
Mhm.
Whitney is also the kind of person who like really wants you to think she's funny
Oh, yeah.
all the
All the
time.
time, and she
Yeah.
is not naturally at all.
Yeah,
And
and that's the problem. Yeah.
it's weird to
And it's
watch
like
because
yeah,
everything is a performance that is, like, divorced from reality, and
right.
just watching Whitney on my television is exhausting and fills me with dread, so I'm like, "What is it like to be her?" I can't imagine.
Right. It's a
Whitney could
lot of work. Yeah.
convincingly bully me, like, easily, like, she's I'm
Yeah.
deathly afraid of her.
You're afraid of her? That's so funny. I'm not afraid of her, but because I know one thing I could just take her down just by being like RSV video and then she'd be down, you
Yeah,
know?
that's
Like that's the
true.
thing. That's her weakness. You just say that and then she's like I just was really I just was I wanted to have a light moment and
Yeah.
everybody's coming at me for that and I don't know I wasn't soft swinging, okay? Like so what the hell? So you know what I
I
mean?
think that
Like
that video is, like, the coolest thing she's ever done. That was, like, her
I
realest moment.
it was so
It's
iconic. It
so
was so
funny.
iconic. Like, that was funny. That was
Yeah.
funny. But that's the thing. It's like, I think Taylor is funny. I think Jen is funny. And I don't think Whitney is funny at all. And
Mhm.
that's, but, and Jen doesn't care if you think she's funny. She's just having fun. Like, she
Mhm.
just, and like, I'm scared of Jen because social anxiety is scared of her. Like,
Yeah.
she's like, people think I'm an extrovert and I'm not. And Jen
Mhm.
is like what people think I am, I think sometimes. And I'm like, I am not that. I am not going to dance in Forever 21 with my mom.
No, no.
Like, I just watched a TikTok of her doing that. She's like, "We turned Forever 21 into a club, and they're dancing to all the, like, music, the
Oh
throwback
my
music that they're
god.
playing in Forever 21." And whoever was doing the camera work was like, "I can't do it anymore. I'm getting secondhand embarrassment. I have to stop." Like, you hear it in the background, and then they stop filming. I'm like, "That's me." Like,
Yeah,
I'm filming, and I'm going, "Okay, I can't do this anymore." But Jen has, like, absolutely she does not care at all.
no.
She's gonna do whatever,
Mhm.
and it's like, yeah, and Taylor is very vulnerable, and she puts herself out there in a way that, like, and then it's either unintentional, like, or well, it's either very sweet or very funny because she's just
Mhm.
very authentic. Despite
Yeah.
all the weird rage bait and lies, it's like she's also one of the most authentic people I've ever seen,
Oh, exactly. Because I
like,
think
on
she's
social
like
media.
I mean, I don't know if it's safe to say she's the messiest, but she's the most, like, overtly messiest, like, she's the one that
Yeah,
we get to see all of her messes, and she's like,
yeah,
"Yep, that's me, it's in my
that's
life,
me. I don't know, like,
bad, kinda." Yeah.
and it's like the more she is just, like, totally real, yeah, the
Mhm.
more, like, naturally, like, funny and interesting and endearing she is. So
Totally.
it's just really interesting. I wanted to look and see if I could find anything about the jobs that these husbands have, because, in one of the early episodes, they talk about how they're all the breadwinners.
Mhm.
So this is according to Reddit. So again, like, who knows? This was 5 months ago. Someone said Dakota's a real estate agent and owns a tiling company. Um Brett, Demi's husband, is a managing partner at Armstrong Consulting Group, whatever that means. So I don't know. He might make more money.
Yeah.
Jordan, Jesse's husband, is a manager at a solar energy company. Such a Utah thing to do. Jacob, Macy's husband, did finance and business strategy as of 2022, according to his LinkedIn. Jace, Michaela's husband, oh yeah, we never see Michaela. It's
Ever.
like Michaela pops up and we're like, oh yeah, Michaela exists.
Oh my gosh,
Um,
and then the other thing with Michaela too is I think she has, like she's got, like, medical stuff going on, but
Yeah,
they
she's got,
don't
like, skin stuff and whatever, right?
yeah, but,
Yeah.
like, they don't address it
Mm-mm.
until, like, several episodes in, so you're just watching this girl and you're like, "Is her liver failing? Like, is
No,
she"
she does talk about it early on. She does talk
Okay,
about it. They do, like, a quick, like, here's all the wives, and she talks about, like, in the first or second episode, she talks about, like, skin stuff, because I forgot
okay.
about it, and that was something
But
she
she
brought up
doesn't, like,
early on.
really go into it, and then you see her and you're
Right.
like, "Is there more? Are you really okay?" Because every time you
I think
see
it's, like,
her,
an
she's just like,
autoimmune thing or something, or I don't
Yeah.
know. Michaela, Mormon wives,
Something,
illness.
something. But then I
Yeah,
feel bad for her
yeah.
because I mean, there's some episodes where I'm like, "Man, she must be having a bad day," but then, like, Whitney and someone else screaming at each other, and she's just there like, "Please, please stop."
It sounds well, it looks like what I'm seeing is, well, I mean, so she talks a lot about chronic illness. We love Spoonies on this podcast. But it was mostly like chronic eczema. She had surgery though. Let's see. So she had this is interesting. So okay, so this is from People. She said
Okay,
that she had breast implants in March 2023, and her eczema flare up spread to her face afterwards. So,
okay.
it ramped up, and then there's a photo of, like, an allergy test that she did and stuff. Um, so it sounds like it just kind of, like, put her body into overdrive and started, like, having more, like,
Mhm.
allergic reactions and things like that, maybe to things that,
Okay. Yeah,
didn't
'cause
cause a problem
Michaela seems
before.
very, very sweet, even though she's,
Yeah.
like, barely on the show, and then I feel like people, like, fight over her too, they're like, "No, I want Michaela on my side of this argument," but
Yeah,
the
and
entire
she's
time,
like,
I'm just like,
"I
she
just
looks
wanna be okay."
exhausted, she
Yeah,
just
because
wants to be
she was
left
really
alone.
going through it. Well, and if you watch some of the TikToks, like, after the season aired, they poke jokes about that, like, the one who was never on camera, and
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh, yeah, Michaela, I forgot about you." But anyway, so, yeah, so her husband is a project manager at Waffle Love, which is a restaurant and food truck in Utah. Um and
What?
someone said, "Couldn't find anything on Connor, Whitney's husband," which I know is the entire point of this post.
Mhm.
Um, apparently Jace got let go from his job because of the show.
That makes sense.
For waffles? You're
I mean,
gonna
I asked for waffles. I
you're
mean,
gonna fire
I
him
could
from
see. I
waffles?
mean, if you're like a very conservative religious employer, and then you see the show, and you're like, but yeah, if you're
Yeah.
waffle boy, waffle
Yeah,
manager,
like, I can't believe the waffle one got let go. That's messed
yeah,
up.
yeah, and
That's
a
so rude.
project manager. How many projects does the waffle truck have?
I don't know.
Maybe he wasn't even let go because of the show. Maybe they just kind of realized like we don't actually have a lot of projects here. We make waffles, we sell waffles, and it's very straightforward for us.
Yeah. Sounds like nobody thinks Connor has a job. I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know if Connor has a job, but
His
maybe he doesn't
Connor's
have a job.
job is new hair. That's Connor's job.
Because, like, I do feel like they've spent a lot of money, so, like, where's the job coming from? It's like, you hear consulting, it's like you could make any amount of money, but,
Mhm,
like, but also, like, Jesse, because that was Jesse's husband, I think. Like, Jesse runs her own business, and
mhm.
she's doing mom talk, so I would guess she probably could still make more money, presumably. But yeah, anyway, so interesting, and of course, Jen makes more money because her
No.
husband doesn't have a job. He's in
No.
medical school,
Yeah,
so
I'm student doctor slash
yeah.
controlling
Cake
abuser.
baby. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so he sucks. Anyway,
yeah,
so
full-time job of being a piece of shit. That's
yeah. So I think if Whitney and Connor like do touch grass, maybe that will be better for everybody and get
Mhm.
jobs. But anyway,
Yeah, get a
so
job.
yeah. And then okay, so what's well, I mean, we know now in the future that
Mhm.
Taylor and Dakota are not together anymore. And they're still working on like co-parenting and all that stuff. What's your opinion on Dakota? Like what's your read on him?
Garbage man. I
Yeah. He's
He's
also
not
like a
good.
baby. Yeah.
Yeah, total baby. That's the other thing too is like all these guys because I feel like Dakota's a little bit older than some of the other husbands. Like
I think
he's like
so.
in
Yeah.
his 30s.
Mhm.
Where like some of these people like Jen's husband is I mean, he's a controlling insecure douche, but he's also like 20, so
Yeah, they
join the
were both
club.
I mean, they're both so young. Jen's
Mhm.
so young. I can't believe
Yeah.
when every time they flash 24 and she talks about all the things that she does, I'm like, "You're doing all that at 24? Oh my god." Like,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
not that mature at 24. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like the gap that exists between the men and the women in the show. And I'm not even saying that like all these women are the most emotionally mature human beings alive, but like
No.
the men are like it's like a 5-year-old.
But they're
It
also,
is
like,
wild to
shouldering
watch.
so much more than the men too. That's the thing.
Mhm.
It's like they're managing the career, they're managing the show, they're doing all of that, and they're Mormon wives, so, they've got kids, and
Mhm.
they're the ones who are expected to, like, shoulder most of the responsibility there, and they don't have any agency in the church
Mhm.
whatsoever. So it's like, you know, like, I give them a lot more grace than the men
Oh
because they
yeah.
should really have their shit together because the women are doing everything.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, and
it's
a guy like Dakota is just like,
trash.
What are you doing?" Like, he's
Yeah.
the king of self-sabotage, constantly shooting himself in the foot when he doesn't have to. He's just creating problems for himself. He falls in line with other men on the show who are doing bad things, i.e.
Mhm.
Jen's husband. He's like, "Yes, I will follow along with you and be a weirdo stalker for no reason." It's all bad. It is just and sometimes it's like, oh, like cringy, embarrassing bad, but most of the time it's like get a restraining order bad, and that's not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it was really tough. I mean, I'm not gonna speak too extensively on, like, the conflict in the first episode because who knows what happened, but to
Yeah.
me, it seems like I wouldn't be surprised if he needled Taylor while she was in a vulnerable state,
Mhm.
drunk, um, I don't know,
Yeah.
in a manipulative way. That to me and then she gets in trouble for it, which seemed odd. It just seemed
Mhm.
odd. I don't
No,
think
the whole
yeah.
thing's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all I'll say about that is I just think it's a little funny. And
Mhm.
it's one of those things that if you just watch that episode, you could be like, well, I don't know, hard to say. But then as you watch the rest of the season, you're like, and that's the arc that we talk about with Taylor, where it's like, I don't know, maybe she's
Yeah.
like to blame. And then you keep watching it and you're like, I don't know, she's like heavily pregnant and she's like, I just want to feel calm. And he's like starting shit. And
Yeah,
you're like,
constantly.
that's unnecessary. Like, you don't need to be doing that. Like, what
Mhm.
the hell's wrong with you? So, anyway, yeah, so let's see. Yeah, so basically second episode we're like however much longer later,
Mhm.
yeah, we get this whiplash and we're like, we're into the second episode, but I do feel like it took me 3 or 4 episodes to really get into the show cuz it was kind of like slow and confusing, and I'm like, do I have to care about these women? And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm deeply invested. I guess that's how it is with a lot of reality shows, but this one felt more so for some reason. But yeah, so Taylor like is on probation and she's pregnant with Dakota's baby, and you're like, oh
Mhm.
my God. And then
Real
and
Maury
then
Povich start to things. It's
yeah, and then Whitney is like, I'm not gonna go to Taylor's baby shower because I am perfect.
Mhm.
And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
a little annoying and weird. Um, and then we have this saints and sinners division happening in like the third episode. I'm like basing this off of the Wikipedia
Mhm.
um synopses, which is really, I'm like, oh yeah, this is when this happens. So this is the weird thing, it's like this is when you start to see how like Jen is being coerced by her
Mhm.
husband, because it's like even her mom doesn't fit within like her in-laws family. And
Mhm.
she like, but it's like she desperately wants their approval and she wants this like family unit to work.
Mhm.
So she's like, I'm just trying not to make waves. Like she's
Mhm.
constantly walking on eggshells, despite being like this, yeah, huge, vibrant, loud personality. It's like she has to do it within these bounds and she has to shrink herself and she can't have these friends and she can't do these things, whatever. So she's like, okay, so I'm doing this graduation party
Mhm.
and also like this baby blessing. And so she's like, well, the sinners can't come to the baby blessing, whatever. But she doesn't call them that. She's just like,
Yeah.
listen, it's just
The
like
other girl.
it was like his request and I'm just trying to like, it's family. I'm just trying to keep it cool. So like so Taylor, Demi, Jesse, and Layla, the most fun ones,
Mhm.
um are not allowed to go. And so they go like bowling instead.
Yeah, which looks way more fun.
And they're like, "Oh my God, we're the sinners. That's so bad." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"You're having way more fun. You're doing the fun thing, the good thing." Yeah.
Oh my gosh, shoot, and then I always this is the other thing that happens in the show is for the longest time, like, Macy and Jesse were just like and Demi to a certain degree, even though she doesn't have the exact same hair, I was just these are all one person in my head
No,
for, like, 4
Demi and
episodes.
Jesse to me look the same. Macy looks
Yeah.
different because Macy's blonder,
Yeah,
but
Macy is blonder, but, like,
Demi
I would
and
always be like, "Wait,
Jesse have,
which
like,
one said
almost the
that?"
same
Yeah.
face, like,
Yeah, yes.
and then you hear them talk and their voice is different, and then you're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
that's Jesse, that's Demi." Those were the 2 that I kept getting
Yes,
messed
yes,
up.
and
Yeah.
it's like and then I was just like, "Okay, wait, no, Jessie is the one who yeah, she's like, "Oh, sometimes I drink peach schnapps, and
Yeah,
one
Jesse's like,
time I
"I'm a
saw a
little
sex
bad."
thing happen and I pointed at it." Like, that's like she's the real
And
bad girl.
yeah, but Demi's like, "I'm the one who talked about the sex thing, and now I get mad if you
Yeah,
put Fruity Pebbles in a box. That's not gonna go well."
not gonna go well. No, I
Mm.
yeah, that whole thing, that's
I had to, like, rewatch that, like, when it came out, I rewatched
Mhm,
it, and I went on TikTok because I was like, "I am missing something. I still don't get it." The reenactment, well, and Whitney's like, "I'm perfect," and she's like, "I'm gonna stand over you, and I'm not wearing underwear, so don't look." And I'm like,
mhm.
"What the hell's going on?"
I do not like I did the same thing as you. I was like, "Am I, like, old or not cool, or am I dumb? Like, what is going on here?"
Yeah, I
And then
still don't fully get it. I'm
yeah,
gonna
and
be
then
really
the
honest.
thing is, like, I spent, like, an hour on TikTok, like, trying to figure it out, and then I was, like, reading, like, Reddit and all these different
Yeah.
articles, and I'm like, the best I could come out of it after given, like, I have a fucking master's degree, and after over an
Oh,
hour of
you
research
do, I don't.
yeah, I'm like, I guess it's a pee thing maybe? Like, that's the best I could do is, like, maybe pee. That's
Yeah,
it.
I don't know, like, I still am very highly confused by it,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good like, I thought it was, like, more mundane than that even,
Mhm.
but
That's
I
what I
don't know.
figured, is, like, in my
Yeah.
head, I'm like, "It has to be something more vanilla," but then you're, like, thinking about the positioning of the reenactment, and then, like, people are speculating based on this, that, and yeah, the closest I can figure out is maybe P.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even go that far, so that's interesting,
Yeah.
but yeah, so, like so it's so
You dig
weird,
deep
but
enough on the internet, it always turns into a P thing, that's
I yeah, rule that's rule 35.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just
exactly.
or 34-2 or whatever. Um, so, yeah, so okay, yeah, so that also happens in episode 3. So, like,
Mhm.
there's, like, the saints and sinners thing, but then Whitney's like, well, I'm gonna give Demi this gift at like it was like a gallon. They go to so many parties. I like literally can't even keep up.
Mhm.
But yeah, wasn't it like a Galentine's party or something like that that Demi
So
was
many
hosting?
parties, so many
Yeah, I
parties.
can't like it's like when you go in the Housewives, it's like the person who gets there's always like there's like an intro party, there's a trip, and then there's like the finale party. And
Yeah.
there's always like, turf wars about like who's gonna get the party.
Mhm.
And then if you're like Kyle Richards, you're like, well, we always do a white party. So that obviously has to be the finale. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's like shit like that. Um, and like we've been doing this since before the show. So like obviously we should get the party. But
Yeah.
on this show, they're like, do you want to throw a party? You want to throw one tomorrow? And then you want to throw one the next day and you want to throw one the next day just in case we don't
Oh,
have enough reasons to film
it is
you.
wild, right?
It's
Like,
like way more parties than most reality
and then
shows.
and again, I'm questioning because I'm like, is this like culturally, is this like a Mormon thing or something? Because they're like,
No, I
yeah,
don't
it's
think
a
so.
random Wednesday in June, and we're doing like a fun like flower brunch extravaganza private party at a giant what would normally be a wedding venue. It's gonna be about 150 people, and I'm like, what?
This is
What?
okay.
What do you do? What do you just
This is
sit there?
my theory. This is my theory. I think, because it's like on the Housewives, there's a lot of filming in each person's house.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of filming like on the road. That requires a lot of production staff. That requires a lot of extra staff and extra timing and a bigger
Mhm.
budget. And what
Yeah.
I'm thinking is it's the first season. They don't know if it's going to go well. So they're hosting as many parties as they can to keep people as together as they can so
Yes,
that
that
they
makes sense.
have less filming. That's my theory, but I don't know. So I would guess in the second season, since it went well, we'll probably see fewer parties and more stuff like just in their houses because we don't get a lot of just them in their homes. Like you get some of that, but it's like most of it is focused on Taylor's house and Whitney's house and a little bit Jen's house, but you don't
Mhm.
really see inside everybody else's houses. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I think they were like, how many times can we get them together to save money and and do this? And I don't even know if they had a lot of like car they didn't have a ton of car filming. It was mostly like them heading out to that one trip. I don't
Mhm.
think they did, and maybe Vegas, but I don't even remember a lot of on the way to Vegas filming.
Yeah,
But so it
yeah,
was like the more we keep them in one spot and have them at these parties, the more we can just have one crew work on it in
yeah.
one place. So
Also, Salt Lake
that's my
City,
theory.
it really feels like I don't know, like, even the things that are familiar to me when I see them in Salt Lake City, I'm like, "This is wrong." Like, when they go bowling, I'm like, "Why is that like, the nicest bowling alley?" You know?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's like, "Oh, I go to Bayview Bowl for $2 shots of Kessler, and there's a
Well,
cigarette machine in there."
but
Like, come
that's the
on.
thing, because it's like your social experiences, like, especially in Wisconsin, revolve so much around alcohol,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like, so there's, like, everybody's
Yours
hanging
so
out
so
at
specifically
Swig.
you, Steve.
No, I'm saying Wisconsinites.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
I need to tell you a quick Wisconsin story. Okay, so we were because people still I think don't understand that like our hatred for Chicago is real and it wasn't
Yeah.
rage bait. We were
No, it's
not
not
faking
rage
it.
bait. Yeah.
Yeah, like I still get hung up on that because people really thought we were like doing that to make people mad and we weren't.
No.
But I'm in class, right? And I go to school in Minnesota because I live, right on the border. So I go to school in Minnesota. We had our first week of class this last week and we had to do like in one of the classes it's like seminar. So because I don't want just one master's degree. I want two because I'm
Mhm.
greedy. So we're all introducing ourselves, going around in a circle, whatever. And like she had us say stuff like, like where are you from? Like what's your background? Things like that. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, well, I'm from Wisconsin. And I still live in Wisconsin now. I just like, moved to a different part of Wisconsin.
Mhm.
And she goes, well, that's essentially Minnesota. And I can't tell you how quickly I responded to that.
Oh my god.
She
No,
goes, "That's
yeah.
essentially Minnesota." I said, "No, no, 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 it's Wisconsin." And
Very
I and
distinct.
and I reacted so quickly that I'm like, it sounded aggressive, and I'm like, and nobody else in the room is from Wisconsin. So
Mhm.
no, I can't look to someone else and be like, "You get it." So I was like, "You don't understand, like, we kinda, like we cling on to," like, I did this hand motion on my desk. I was like, "We cling on to it, like, for dear
Mhm.
life." So until I move to Minnesota, which will probably happen someday, but I haven't yet, I'm like, we cling to our Wisconsin identity. It's a weird state
Yeah.
pride thing. I can't explain it unless you get it. Like, and
Mhm.
I was like, I must look really weird because like I'm in a room full of people who are either born and raised in Minnesota or they came from like one came from like Washington, a couple came from California, a couple came from other countries, and they're all
Mhm.
like, Minnesota is so beautiful and we love it. And like they're all like fully in. And they're like,
Mhm.
yeah, Minnesota. Oh, and the Minnesota summers. Oh, I love it so much. It's just been so beautiful and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm still in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So don't try to lump me in with all
No.
you Minnesota people.
And let me tell you something too, because I feel like anyone who accused us of rage baiting, one has never heard me like just pop off in public with one of my anti-Chicago monologues, which I've been known to do. Um, two is you have to realize if you live in the Midwest, there's all kinds of different Midwesterners. Like and everyone is different. Like an
Yeah.
Indiana person is not a Michigan person, is not a Wisconsin person,
No.
whatever. But Chicago is almost its own thing. And the one thing that unifies the Midwest is most of us are like, yeah, Chicago's okay, but we also kind of hate Chicago people and Chicago
Yeah.
in general. Like it's just,
Mhm.
and it's not like a seething hatred. Like it's not my hatred for their food, but it's
No.
just an underlying like eye roll thing. And
Yes.
the absolute worst is like, oh, it's first day of class that you're teaching or like whatever. And then you go, oh, yeah, I'm from Chicago. And then you go, oh, what part of Chicago?
Where?
And then they go,
Mhm.
Naperville. I'm like, no, you're
And you're
from
like, "That's not
Naperville.
Chicago.
It's
That's
not
not Chicago.
Chicago.
What are you doing?"
Stop it.
Yeah.
You don't get to
Right.
claim that. You're from Joliet. That's a whole ass city with like a AAA baseball team. You don't get to say you're from Chicago. That's like a
Yeah.
place.
It's
Eh,
so weird.
It's
Yeah.
so weird.
It's like I lived in Milwaukee for like
Mhm.
15 years. Like so I say even though my family is from 20 minutes from Milwaukee, I can still say I'm from Milwaukee. I lived there long enough to say I'm from there. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? I'm just like but I also say like I'll be like, "Oh, and I grew up 20 minutes from the city and but I live there." You know, whatever. Like but
Mhm.
I'm not like I'm yeah, I don't know. It's just like yeah,
Yeah.
that's like being and I lived in, Racine too, and to be like, "Oh," like, if I lived in Racine and I'm like, "I'm from Milwaukee," that's basically what they're saying
That's
when they're
literally
saying
what
they're
they
from
are doing.
Chicago because it's that far away.
It
It's
is
like a
it
half an
is
hour away,
wild, and
and
they
you're
don't
like,
even say
"What are you talking about?"
I mean, they have a special name for their metropolitan area. You could say, "I'm from the Chicagoland area," or, yeah, or
Yes.
just outside of Chicago, "I'm from Naperville, I'm from Elm Grove," whatever. "I'm from
Yeah.
Gurney. I go to the Rainforest Cafe every Tuesday for half off chicken fingers." Great. You could say all these things, but you don't. You just go,
Yeah.
"I'm from Chicago. I'm from Chicago."
Like,
You're
I
not.
mean,
You're not from Chicago.
I have it on good authority and personal experience that people who, like, live in the Twin Cities area don't say they live in the Twin Cities if they don't.
Yeah,
Just saying.
They
They don't.
don't.
They will tell you the exact place where they live, and then
Yeah.
they'll be like, "It's, like, 20 minutes from St. Paul," or, like, 15 minutes from Minneapolis or whatever,
People
and
in
then you're like,
Minneapolis and St. Paul are they're hilarious because they all go super niche. Like, if you
yeah.
ask someone from Minneapolis where they're from, you go, "Oh, where are you from?" They just go, "Northeast." Like,
Yeah, they'll be like,
that's
"Lynn Lake," and you're like,
direction.
"Oh," you're like, "Oh, okay." Like, yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, Northeast St. Louis Park, like, yeah, they'll
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
you
yeah.
exactly where they're from,
Literally, they're
and
giving you their latitude and longitude. That's
yes.
that's what
Yes,
Minneapolis,
that's what
St.
I'm
Paul people
saying.
do.
Yeah, and they'll be like, "Oh, uptown isn't what it used to be,"
Yeah.
or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, it's like that doesn't happen. So it's like I'm in a room full of people who are telling me exactly where in Minnesota they live,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "I'm still in Wisconsin." Like, you can't yeah, and but it's like but it's weird because Western Wisconsin is like that. People will be like, "Oh, well, I basically live in Minnesota." It's
Mhm.
different. Western Wisconsin people can be different depending on how far west they are because some of them do fully like go or some of them are from Minnesota and then they move to Wisconsin, so it's
Mhm.
different. But when you're born and raised in Wisconsin or you've spent a long time in Wisconsin, there's no way in hell you're going to do that. Like and I it's hard to explain that. So we have our own idiosyncrasies, not just like Utah has its own idiosyncrasies. But yeah, it's like it's the Midwest and I can't it's like you have to know people who aren't from Wisconsin, but have encountered enough Wisconsinites to see,
Mhm.
like, no, it's a weird state pride thing. I have been told that it's similar to people who are from Texas, where
Yeah.
it's just like, I don't know, you just love your state no matter what. And
Mhm.
like, they're bad things can happen. Bad people can do bad things, and you're still like doggedly loyal to your state. And that
Passionate
is,
Wisconsinites are passionate and they have all these weird little quirks. Like, I think it's the quirkiest Midwestern state by like a
yes.
country mile, like just the quirkiest. And my favorite thing is like they don't see them as quirks. They're like, no, we're
No.
normal. You guys are all
Yeah,
weird.
that's what it is, and it's like and people are like, "Oh," they'll be like, "Oh, it's like Minnesota," and I'm like, "No, it's not like Minnesota at all." Like, the nice is different,
Totally.
Minnesota nice has its own name because it is a different thing.
Yeah.
We don't do I don't remember if I talked about this on the podcast or not, but I found this, perfect example of Minnesota nice, maybe I did, I'm gonna say it again. I was, listening to the radio because I get all Minnesota radio. And I'm driving, and this guy was like, "So it's going to be 0 at the airport," which is just, it's just great. And he's laughing about it. And I'm like, that's Minnesota nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, nobody in Wisconsin would act like
No. No.
we don't do that. It's just that's the difference, right
Hmm.
there. Or when I went to a speakeasy in Minneapolis, and we have one that's famous in Milwaukee. It's like a spy bar or whatever.
It's
And you
real
have to
corny, but it's fun.
yeah, it's corny, but it's fun. You gotta go.
Yeah.
It's weird that it's the one place that everybody says you have to go in Milwaukee. You don't have to go,
Yeah. I
but
guess you
it's
have
fun.
to go if you're a bachelorette party. Like that's.
Yeah, it's fun, you should go at least once, but, don't make that your one place to go. But anyway, but it's very, they get gruff and, you gotta know the password and all that stuff
Oh,
and
that stuff.
whatever.
Yeah.
And but it's funny because I went to the speakeasy in Minneapolis, and they, opened up the little eye slit, and they're like, "Hi, how's it going? How many people in your party?" And I'm like, this is so Minnesota. You can't explain this difference unless you live it. But it's I'm like, what? Not even for a second are you gonna keep up the facade? And I've been there a couple times. They've never been like, "What's the password?" or who are you? Or
Yeah.
it's always like,
Yeah.
"Hi, how's it going? How many people?
Oh,
Okay, just give me one
hey.
second." And then they close, they close it again. They open it back up. Okay, come on in. And you're like, that's
God.
so Minnesota. So everybody's got their quirks, but I
Hmm.
mean, I'm lobbying to get a swig in the upper Midwest. That would be amazing. I think it'll happen. I think we will get a swig. I think the cultural relevance of the show, I want to experience a ridiculously gigantic soda with coconut cream just once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just once. But it's
It's just
basically
so
a
funny
lot of
because it's
times they're
like,
Italian sodas kind of or whatever. But
yeah,
yeah.
little bit, but it's just
Yeah.
like Italian sodas, but like extra large Speedway gas station size.
Yeah,
Like,
and, instead of just, one flavor and a couple pumps and it's, lightly
yeah.
flavored, it's, 10 pumps and then also maybe another soda layered in it, not just,
Hmm.
sparkling water or whatever. So it's just, it's so fascinating to me, but even that, like you said, is a little bit off. It's the upgraded, because that's where they're spending their social time.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's the closest equivalent I could find around here was Sonic. I'm like, you're not gonna go hang out with your girlfriends at a Sonic.
No, we don't
It's
hang with the girlies at Sonic.
you're right. I'm sure they've got cold pressed juice places and stuff too, but it's their they don't seem to be as popular as these,
No.
44-ounce soda places.
Well, yeah,
It's just
and
so wild.
it is super super wild, and they have like the drive through ones, but then they also have ones where like people just go in there and sit, and it's just like this is like your
Yeah.
third space in
Right,
in
that's what I'm
Utah.
saying. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's they don't have coffee shops, they have
Hmm.
Swig. So it's gotta be nice. And yeah, they're not gonna go to bars and clubs, so the bowling alleys have to be nice. That's my point
Yeah,
to get
yeah. It's just
after
it
my
is.
long
Yeah.
Wisconsin rant.
It's just it's taking things that are familiar, but it's being redressed for a different cultural purpose, basically. And it's
Yeah.
weird because everywhere else you're like, no, this is a thing. I'm like, it's a duck. It's quacking like a duck. Why is it not a duck? They're like, it's a goose, motherfucker. Like, but that's not a goose. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just it's so bizarre. Because yeah, like you said, it's taking things that you are familiar with and just twisting them, basically.
It's like when you go to Canada, it's the same thing.
Hmm.
Where I was like, "Why does the walk sign look different?" The walk
Right?
sign
Just
looks a
just
little
off enough.
jauntier,
Yeah, yeah.
looks a little happier, and then that was the first place that I ever went to where they're like, "We bring the card reader out to you.
Hmm.
You don't just give me your card. We bring it out to you." And they started doing tap before we ever did tap.
Hmm.
And I'm like and it was funny because I went to this restaurant. I went to a Thai restaurant or something like that. And the guy was like, "Oh, are you from the States?" Because I was confused about the process. And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And he goes, "The only thing that tipped me off is you had no idea how the purchasing. He's like, I've seen other people from the States get confused by this. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's like Bizarro
Oh,
America. It's
same
just
thing,
like a
yeah,
little
like in
different.
Europe, like, the tap stuff has been around for, like, 15 years, or, like,
Yeah.
they had the, like, grocery store checkout, like, self-checkout, like, 20 years ago. You could do that
Yeah.
at a Tesco in London if you wanted
Yeah.
to, like,
And
it's
we're like, you had that? Oh,
Yeah, the
damn.
United States is the iPhone of countries
That's
where
there we go. I was waiting for that. Thank you.
we
Yeah.
think we're hot shit, but really we're just, like, 10 to
And then we're
15
like,
years
"Oh,
behind
everywhere else
everyone.
is Samsung. Oh, damn,
Yeah.
like, this is cool."
Uh,
Anyway, so the
when are we gonna catch up to healthcare? I was just wondering.
yeah, that would be great, right? That would
Yeah.
be really not anytime soon.
Not anytime soon,
Um,
no.
no, but anyway, so okay, so we have this, another party. God, there's so many. So then there's the Macy's birthday, they rent a penthouse, and
Mhm.
they do this, like, truth box thing, and they're, like, asking each other questions and whatever. And I don't even remember a lot of these because the biggest truth bomb happened, like, outside of this where it was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, Dakota, like, was, hanging out, hooking up with a girl while he was dating Taylor, and I don't know what to
Mhm.
tell, whatever." I still don't know how I feel about Macy either. I feel like I liked her in the beginning and now like I'm 50-50 with her kind of.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, then there's like, yeah, the Whitney missing the baby shower, and then Demi's like, Whitney's two-faced, and she is, and that's true. And Whitney's really trying to like make herself look good. So as soon as she realizes her brand's about to be tarnished, she's like, I'm leaving the group chat
Yeah.
because I want people to ask me where I went. And they're like, "We're not gonna indulge this." Not to say that she's got certain tendencies, but really the moms were like, "We're gonna gray rock her." And I was like,
Mhm.
"That's a good idea." They're like, "We're gonna ignore her and eventually we're gonna unfollow her if she doesn't act right."
I just like how, with a lot of people, especially with social media, it's like, yeah, like, like, trust your instincts, be yourself, do
Mhm.
what feels right. With Whitney, I'm like, actually don't trust any instinct that you have because every time you do something, Whitney, it actually has the exact opposite effect of what you want to occur. So it's
Yeah, she
it's
just yeah, yeah,
the worst
don't
instincts of any
maybe do
content creator
unfunny
ever.
things and they will become funny. Actually, that's kinda
Yeah.
what she did,
That's
it's
what
like the
she did.
RSV
Yeah.
thing is
Like
hilarious.
the RSV thing is like it is high art.
Yeah,
It is like
nothing will beat
Warhol
that.
level. Hang it in the Louvre, man. Like, it is so good. And for her, it's just like, "It's just a fun little dance and my sad dying baby." Like, for her, it was like nothing. It was throwaway. It's like, "No, you have this is your
Yeah.
Sistine Chapel, and you
And
don't
she's
know it."
like, "That ruined my life," and it's like, people are dressing up, like, with that same sweatshirt,
Yes.
for Halloween to be you because
I
it's
know.
camp, it's camp.
There's, like, drag brunches based on you dancing around your sick
Yes.
baby. Like
And that's the thing, like, if she fully leaned into the camp,
Mhm.
she's built for it. She would be so good,
Oh,
but
yeah.
she can't let go, and
No.
she's gotta let go, and she'd have so much more fun. But anyway, so, like, I want to like Whitney, and I can't, and that's annoying to me
Yeah.
because
I love a villain.
yeah,
Everybody knows I love a
yeah,
villain. I worship at the throne of Lisa Barlow, okay? I am a serious villain-loving man. Now, I just there's nothing to love about Whitney. She just, like, makes me cringe, and I'm
yeah.
afraid of her.
'Cause she doesn't embrace it, and that's the thing that's hard. So then they go okay, and then Layla by the way, I really like Layla, I feel like we didn't see a lot of her, but man,
Mhm.
her ex-husband looked like such a weenie. I'm
Oh,
so
yeah.
glad she got divorced. Good for you, Layla.
Yeah, yeah.
And
As
she's
soon as they
like, "I'm
showed him, I
coming
was
into
just like,
my own."
"Oh."
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, yeah, you dodged a bullet. Get
Mhm.
out of there." So I think we'll see more of her in the second season. We just didn't get to see a lot of her,
Yeah.
but I think the divorce party was really fun.
I'm really interested in her story too, because she got I mean, not only did she get divorced, but she got married super young too. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I
I mean,
I
that's like Mormonism,
yeah, I was gonna say par for
that's
the
the thing.
course, but
Yeah.
even among that group of people, it felt a little bit young, so I was like, "Ugh."
Yeah. Well, I mean, even like Demi was married before and got
Mhm.
divorced and then got married, to some so even though she got
An
married
old man.
older yeah, well,
Who's, like, literally probably, like, my age or
I
something.
literally can't say anything because I did the same thing,
I
but
know,
anyway.
it's fine, it's fine. No, that I mean, the only reason I'm joking is because it's so funny because it's like
Yeah.
there's an age gap, but he's not, like it's not like he's like 80 and she's
He's
20.
17 years older. He's
Yeah.
17 years older. Like, my husband's 15 years older, so I'm like, I
Mhm.
can't really talk. But
Yeah.
also, like, it's not like they started dating when she was super young either, I don't
Yeah,
think, because
exactly.
she
It's not
was
like he was
married
her
and divorced.
babysitter. Yeah, like, these
Yeah,
are
like, so
adults.
but that's the thing you worry about with, like, these,
Mhm.
I don't know when they started dating, but I think she was, like, in her mid, late 20s by the time they started
Yeah.
dating. So it's, like,
And wasn't
maybe
he,
a
like,
little on the
dating or
border, but
married
not.
to a housewife or something
He
previously too?
was? Oh,
He
I don't know.
I believe he has a housewife connection of some
See,
sort.
Brett Engman. Okay, let's see. So yeah, so they married in 2021. She got divorced in 2020. They turned
Wow.
around really quickly.
I mean, the Mormons
Oh,
are moving quick.
he
That's
was
kind of the thing.
previously married to Angie Harrington.
There you go. See?
I did not realize that. That's interesting. That's
Mhm.
interesting.
Mhm.
He was also initially cast in Claire Crawley's season of The Bachelorette, but ended up dropping out of the running before filming began.
Wow, that I did not know.
Interesting.
Well, it's
Yeah.
all coming back around. Look at that. We're
Yeah.
connecting it to the actual thing the
Yeah.
podcast is
He was
about.
he was a football quarterback for Brigham Young University from 1999 to 2002. He was married to Angie Harrington. I had no idea. But yeah, so they obviously started dating in
Mhm.
like 2020.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she was like in her mid late 20s. It's like, yeah, it's like a little, but I mean, she was like married and divorced and like I think had kids by then. Yeah, so
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah, 16 years apart. Wait, it says nearly 17 year. Okay, people.
Close enough.
Um but yeah, she said and she did, but this is a little weird. She did know him through a family friend growing up. Well, okay, all right. I don't know. Danger zone. Maybe I
Don't love
changed
it,
my
don't love it,
mind.
don't love
Maybe I
it.
changed my mind. Danger, danger.
This is
Um, but she said there's been
the light
controversy
is
around their
turning yellow,
relationship.
it's getting close to red.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I also knew my husband when I was younger, but I was also an adult.
Well,
I was in my early 20s, but I was an adult. So
mhm.
just putting that out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, now I'm going to get in controversy.
Mhm.
But anyway, so then they do the Vegas trip. And
Mhm.
this is when we find out that Zach has a gambling addiction. I mean, alleged gambling
Oh my
addiction.
gosh, and this is great too because, guess what else Mormons can't do? It's not just, like, not drink
Yeah.
coffee and tea, you probably shouldn't gamble, and then you find out it's like, not only is he going to Vegas and playing table games all night, but on top of that, it's like he, like, blew a ridiculous amount of their money on gambling. So
Yeah.
he already screwed up. It is like, I mean, it's been made public knowledge because it's on the show, and
Yeah.
then you see him doing this stuff, and then his entire shtick is I am morally superior to my wife and want to control her in every way
Yeah, he's
possible.
so gross. Like, and she's because they're like, "Can we talk about it?" And Jen is like way too kind to her about her husband, and she's like,
Mhm.
"Just don't make it sound like it's an addiction." And I'm like, "Well, it kind of is."
Yeah.
And she's like, "If I give you $2,500, like you can't lose it all." And he's like, "And if I do, I won't gamble for the rest of the year." I'm like, "What the hell?
A
$2,500? Like,
generous allowance.
I have literally like I worked in a casino. I very rarely gamble. I've never spent more than like, I don't know, $100
Yeah, if I
gambling.
spend more
Like,
than $100, I feel bad. Like, I don't I
yes. I'm like, I cannot wrap my
me
head
playing
around
penny slots,
$2,500.
like
Yeah. I literally put like a quarter in a machine and won $80 and I was like, I'm done.
Mhm.
And I didn't go, "Oh, well, if I'd put in a dollar, it would have been this much." Like, no, I won
No.
$80 and I stopped playing
Yeah.
because I don't have a problem with gaming. But anyway, so that was like really messed up. And then yeah, they go to Chippendales and she just sits and watches and he's like, "I would
Mhm.
divorce you over this." And it's like that's so fucked up.
Also, yeah, like the Chippendales show in Vegas is it's gotta be
Pretty
so
tame.
tame, so
It's
tame.
pretty tame.
Like, if you
Like,
like, there's,
yeah.
like, horny variants of Cirque du Soleil that are way, way, way worse than what you
Yes,
would see at
yes.
Chippendales.
And it's like, yeah, and it's not even like
Had to
Thunder Down
specify
Under is
horny
like one.
variant too, not all
Yeah,
Cirque du Soleil.
not all Cirque du Soleil shows, but there are some
Yeah,
horny
yes, there
ones.
are some horny ones, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I went to see Ka, and it wasn't like that at all. What's going but anyway, yeah, it was like it was so weird because she was like, it sounded like she was hyperbolic. She's like, "No, I think he would divorce me over this."
Mhm,
And here's the thing that was fucked up too, is like a bait and switch because he was like, "I'm okay," and then he's like, "I'm suddenly not okay." So it's like he trapped her, he tricked her,
mhm.
and then she's like feeling horrible because he said it was okay and then decided it wasn't okay. It's like you can't do that. That's not
Yeah,
all right, you know?
and And just a little relationship advice from your old buddy Steve. If you are in a relationship and you want to do something completely normal, innocuous, like and you know it to be perfectly fine,
Yeah,
you're like, this is fine, and then your partner gets irrationally mad to the point of like threatening to leave you. That's not a person you should be with.
that's
It's
bad.
it's bad. We don't like that. We
That's
don't
a
like that.
bad thing. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was so weird. I was like, She can't win, like, this is just, like, so bad," you know?
Hmm.
Um Yeah, and then, so that happens, and there like, I don't know if there's a lot that happens in that second to last episode. It's basically just, like, the fallout from that, and
Hmm.
then, like, and then Taylor finds out about, like, the Dakota stuff, and there's a lot of fighting back and forth with, like, Taylor and Dakota in a lot of these episodes, and it's really hard to watch,
Yeah.
especially because on the last episode, she's, like, giving birth, and she's like, "Things are still not really that good," and I'm like, "Oh god, this sucks, like, this hurts," like,
Yeah.
it really is, like, such a bummer.
Hmm.
And Dakota is I mean, in my opinion, I think Dakota was lying. That's my opinion about the
Oh
rumor.
yeah.
He's like, "It totally didn't happen." And I'm like, I don't believe
Yeah,
you."
like the only credence I can give to him saying, "Oh, it didn't happen," is because he's such scum and he's so unlikable that like it's reasonable that it didn't happen because like who would like I can't imagine a woman
Yeah.
being attracted
Or
to him.
maybe the timing was a little different and the person,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
didn't understand the exact timing or
I
something. Like, that's possible, but
Mhm.
I think, in my opinion,
Mhm. If
based
you if
on
you were Zach, what would you bet on?
yeah, if I was Zach, well, I would probably bet wrong because Zach's
Yeah.
really good at losing money. But yeah, I mean, I think it's probably not I think it's probably a lie what he's saying. And also, I don't think even though I'm kinda, like, so with Macy, I don't think there's a reason for her to lie about this.
No.
Like,
No.
I don't know. And
There's
I
nothing
also
benefit from it.
yeah, like, she doesn't win at all. She is one of those people who's obviously trying to, like, be cool with everybody in the show. Like, she's not trying to make waves the way some of the other women in the show are.
No.
And it's like, I would say, Macy and Michaela, because she's rarely there, and, like, Jessie are kind of, like, the most non-controversial women on the season. Like,
Mhm.
it's funny because I feel like Jessie kinda acts like she's messy, but she doesn't actually cause any mess. Like,
No.
she'll be like, "I like drama," but she doesn't really, like, contribute to a lot of it, so she's just kinda like, "But I'm gonna do your hair instead."
But
I think
it's
most of
it's
it goes
like
down in the salon and we don't see it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's funny too because she's older than the other girls.
Yeah.
Um, and unlike Whitney, who I don't see any sincerity in, and it like scares me slash annoys
Mhm.
me. I love her lack of sincerity with some things, and it's not even a lack of sincerity, it's just like she's just like playing a character basically, like she's playing
Yeah.
everything up, and she wants to be the baddest of the bad girls, but without actually doing anything because I don't think she's like not a she's a nice person, it seems
I
like,
think she's,
but
like,
like
pretty, like, run of the mill,
yeah,
normal,
like
yeah,
that's
but
the thing, like if
she'll be
she
like,
was
"I'm s
not on this
yeah,
show, she
naughty."
would be
Yeah.
yeah, she'd be like the most like innocuous person, but here
Yeah.
she's like, "Hey guys, let's play a game called What's Your Favorite Penis? My favorite kind of penis is penis. What do you think?"
Oh,
And
yeah,
they're like,
that's true. Because
"Oh."
she did that whole I forgot to talk about, like, the whole labiaplasty and, like, let's paint,
Yeah,
and
like,
all that
but
stuff,
everything
but it
she
was
does is
like
just like this is like what a 6th grader would think is
yeah, it was just,
bad.
like, cute and normal. It wasn't, like, that weird, and I think she thought the
No,
women would be more scandalized, and they're all like, "I'll paint that," and she was like, "Oh, okay, I thought I was gonna be the wildest one." And
I know, and
so
that's
I think there's
she's
something really
really
funny about
trying.
Jessie. Yeah.
She's like, "I know I'm not the main character, but I gotta get in that lane, and I gotta, like,
Yeah.
establish who I am, and I'm the raunchy one." It's like, "I don't know, you're, like, barely PG-13 most of the
Yeah,
time,
I'm
girl."
like,
Like,
I think Demi's got you beat. I think Taylor's got you beat. I think Jen
"Anybody
might
want
even
a
have you
wine
beat.
cooler?"
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
like
she's like, "I'm a little bit naughty. I'm the rebel." And I'm like, "I don't
yeah.
think you are." But I
I
still
had I
really
had
like
one
her.
and a
Yeah.
half Heinekens last night, and I Googled balls.
Yeah. No, I like her. Maybe she'll come into her
Yeah.
own a little bit more next
Hell
season
yeah. I
too.
fucking love her. Keep doing,
Yeah, I'll
like
ride for Jessie. Yeah.
yeah, Jesse, keep doing sexy stuff that's not sexy, but you think it is. Like, it's cool. I love it.
No, we like you. We like you
Yeah.
a lot.
You're the goodest bad girl.
Yeah, there's something, but yeah, I'm like, she literally doesn't cause any drama. Like, if you rewatch the
None,
show,
none.
like, she projects this, and then you're like, "Oh, she didn't cause any problems, and
Didn't
everybody
do
likes
anything.
her." And
Right,
but that's
yeah.
good. Like, yeah, she tried, but it's interesting.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so then there's the finale is like Macy's like baby mama brand launch, which like I feel so weird about that name, but anyway, whatever. Um And then there's like this photo shoot that she does. And then like Dakota's like, let's turn it into our photo shoot. I'm gonna take my shirt off. Like
Which is,
it's
like,
so
the
weird.
most, like,
Yeah.
barfy dude thing ever, like, I
Mhm.
was just like, there's some things where it's like that secondhand embarrassment, like, my skin just crawls, and when
Mhm.
he did that, when he's like, "Oh, let me can we get a couple here?" It's like, this is that's I was just, like, talking to my television, I'm like, "That's not what this is for."
Yeah. And then
Eh
Macy's like, I spent money on this. What the hell's wrong with you? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that guy sucks.
The worst.
Yeah, he's
Absolutely
terrible.
unforgivable, like, forever blacklisted from like, he shouldn't be allowed anywhere near, like, Hinge or Tinder or anything just because of that, like, it's just you're banned from
Yeah,
women.
he's so slimy. But anyway, my favorite part about the end of this, and we'll try to wrap this up in a couple minutes, because we're going on way too long.
Oh my god, yeah, I'm sorry.
But okay,
It's my fault.
so no, it's okay. This I could talk about this for like 5 hours, I'm realizing. But yeah, so Whitney doesn't come to like the finale brand launch party, and they
Mhm.
were like, we're gonna in a coordinated effort mass unfollow Whitney if she doesn't show up here at the same time, which was like the coolest, like, because that's the stuff that hurts Whitney. That's the
Oh, yeah.
thing. It's like, because she has this like shifting identity, it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, and that's why she thinks leaving the group chat is like this big fuck you,
Mhm.
because that's like where she's like deriving her identity from. So the fact that they all identified that, and they're like, we're gonna all like, and some of the other women are like, oh my god, I wasn't following, oh yeah, I unfollowed you because you said that, I'll follow you again, it's like whatever, no big deal. And that
Mhm.
happens on like Housewives all the time, where I'll be like, oh yeah, I unfollowed you because I didn't like that one thing you said, but then I refollowed you, so it's fine, like no big deal.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, yeah, that would be damaging to her. And it's like, oh, will mom talk survive Whitney leaving? And then to find out, like, yeah, everyone's actually kind of fine if you're here or not, is the funniest shit ever.
Oh, it's so good. It's and for her, it's just like if a bunch of people were like, "We're all gonna unfollow Steve on Instagram," I'd be like, "Fine, I
Yeah.
don't even post anything." Like, what do
Yeah.
you
Like, I'm
But for
literally
her, you're
like,
right,
I
it's her
don't
whole
pay
identity.
attention.
So for
Yeah.
her, it's like that's like the Joe Pesci Goodfellas scene. Like, it's just like
Yes.
completely just giving her one to the dome, man. Like, but for anyone else, you're like, "That's so silly," but it really is, like, so much of who she is tied up in the fact that she's like I don't know, a sentient brand. So
Yeah.
to do something like
That's the
that, it's what
thing.
hurts
Like,
her.
she just really needs that. But what's really exciting is we're supposed to sometime in the spring get
Mhm.
20 episodes
Oh my god.
for season 2.
I love that for me.
How exciting is that? Yeah. So hopefully that does happen and we get that. And in the meanwhile, I'm just gonna watch finally season 2 of Severance, the thing I feel like I've waited my whole
Oh,
life
I
for.
can't wait.
Can't wait.
20 episodes. I'm gonna wake up at the crack of dawn. I'm gonna fire up the Hulu. I'm gonna pour myself a big bowl of Fruity Pebbles and
Drink my swig, and by
drink
the time swig will be here by that
Yep.
time. No, we'll see. Yeah, I'm so excited. But yeah, thanks for being here for this special episode. Our
Mhm.
very special episode on Courtney actually did pretty well on the YouTubes, which is
Look at us.
exciting. So hey, if you like these, let us know. If there's specific things you want to see us cover, like tell us. If you're watching this on YouTube, tell us in the comments. Let us know on social media, like what you want to see, because I think these are fun. We'll try to do these every once in a while between
Yeah.
seasons. But we're going to see you next week.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
It's
For the new
time.
season of The
It's
Bachelor.
time.
I can't believe it. That's wild. And then we'll talk Bachelor Nation gossip and all of that stuff, because
Of course, we have to.
big breakups, big stuff
Mhm,
happening, lots of
mhm,
rumors going on. I don't
mhm.
know. It's interesting. But until then, friends, take care of yourselves. Drink a giant soda and balance it out with something not like a soda, and eat a salad if you want. You don't have to.
Yeah. Don't do needle drugs, though.
I
Little
like seriously
spinach.
do want a giant soda though. Like, I
Yeah.
just keep thinking, I'm like, Swig, whatever you got paid to get that sponsorship, it was worth every penny.
I'm gonna go on Amazon and just find us like the biggest soda cups humanly possible. Put them on your desk.
Stay tuned for season 2.
Yeah.